So I'll get right to it because it's Father's Day, and you know what? We don't mess around. When we say goodbye, we mean goodbye, right? Like it's time to go, not let's go. So I realized that when my oldest dog, Lola, was refusing to eat the $25 a pound dry-aged ribeye, that perhaps I'd made a mistake in the way that I trained my loved ones in my life. I thought the strategy was correct. You have a high expectation and high reward. And it was a strategy that I had learned from my parents, but maybe it wasn't really turning out exactly the way that I thought it ought to. Because the thing about high expectations, in this case, was a generational transmission, right? I learned it from my parents. That's what you did. That's the way that you raised your kids. And when you're talking about my upbringing, which was highly educated parents on the East Coast, you expected a lot. And expecting a lot meant that what they believed to be right and their value system was one that you would adopt. So that certainly coming from a big family of 6 kids, they expected go to the best colleges, have a professional career, be successful, be proof that their method and their value system was the best one. And they were proud of us. They expected a lot. And the truth is, we adopted that. We performed on that level. We met those expectations. But what happened in doing the right things and going the right places and adopting the family tradition, we missed a few things about self-examination, about understanding family systems. Because what you did was you sucked it up. You did it. You performed. You became that person that your parents wanted you to. And it wasn't suffering, right? It was just, this is the way you did it. This is the way that you returned the love. And so it wasn't shallow either. My parents loved and supported us, and I felt it, and we felt it. And so when it came time to have my family, my wife and Adrian and I decided that the bookend to high expectations was be really loving by inviting communication, by letting our boys know how much we loved them, how excited we were to have them express themselves, to have them put what they needed up front, and to be that flowing, communicative other side of the high expectations. But what we missed along the way, I think, a little bit was that although they communicated, they also adopted, they took on the same sort of predictable pattern. They certainly expressed what they needed and were communicative, but I think my wife and I missed a few things. We missed perhaps underneath what was being said, what was needed, some of the feelings that were there that we kind of passed over a little bit. So in those moments, right, when my kids did what I did, which is they did take on the acceptance, the performance, the being rewarded for doing the right things, right, which was being social and getting good grades and cleaning your room. And all of a sudden, it's like, holy Father of God, I have become my parents, right? How many people have had that that moment, right? And so the title here is, Oops, I Did It Again. And there was, in that desire for my kids to do the right things and become the people I thought they should be, I made the mistake of thinking that what was cool and what was right for them was to share what I believed about life, how it worked, and my ideas. And while that was fantastic, and we were a tight family little unit, in my supporting them to be such amazing kids, I missed a few things. So my oldest, Jared, runs a machine learning tech company in Seattle. PhD, brilliant mind, gourmet cook, a driver, really unbelievable, brilliant, super. And my youngest, Ian, who's here today, is one of the funniest, keenest intellects, so smart, so self-aware, so emotionally in touch with himself, and he's a fantastic musician and kind of an old soul. Actually, both my kids are. And so they're fine, right? They're amazing. But in my support, and my wife and I support to make sure they knew they were amazing, we filled in some of the gaps. Like, I didn't always hear underneath in those formative years of being in school when they were different, when they were smart, and I was aware of how amazing they were, I didn't always hear underneath what was happening. I sometimes substituted what I felt, my idea of how things are, my take on the world, communicating that to them was enough to make up for some of the sensitivities and vulnerabilities that kids have in those years at school. And moving through those feelings of being different and being special, I don't know if I say I, and it's my wife and I don't know if I understood that that wasn't always enough for them, that I was in a position where I felt like in growing myself and in loving them that was enough. So I missed a few things. And so essentially my kids did the same thing I did, which was to take what my parents gave me and to assume their values and to push into their development and in their years of growing up, the idea that you didn't communicate certain vulnerabilities and you didn't communicate certain needs, and that was enough. And I realized going through this that in order to change, if you're an awake person or you're becoming awake, that there's a need and a requirement to tap into a language and a freedom to express yourself and a way of being able to use language and words to name the absurdities and the hypocrisies of everyday life, that, just conforming and getting in line and doing like it was done before wasn't enough for them. And they communicated that as adults, that sometimes when you are uncertain, it's not enough for someone to be certain for you. And I thought as a parent, that's what my job was to do. If you don't know, I'll know for you. And what my kids are teaching me and taught me is that hearing them, listening to them, allowing them to be their own unique voice is really what loving as a parent was about. And I know that I'm so grateful that my sons still want to be close to me, and that as a family, we still have lessons to teach each other. And that as we move forward, the bond and the expansion and the growth is really as wide open as it ever was. And so, on this Father's Day, I just want to say that I did miss a few things. And I know that as grateful as I am, that my understanding now about understanding means that I have to have a willingness to change and to do it different. And that doing it different means if I didn't get it right the first time, and it didn't get it pure, and maybe I'd like another shot at it, well, then the good news is do it now. So thank everybody here who was a parent, fathers and mothers, and love you all on this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Oh.